Welcome back. In this video, our ninth, we're going to get that shot working and then hopefully kill the mummy as well. So first things, let's finish up that shot there. So we did have this blaster shot, and I think we're sort of having a problem with it, sort of shooting on a bit of an angle, straight up. So let's deal with that. I'm going to create a new script, and then just basically just purely focus on the blaster shot. So we've got a blaster shot script. Let's make that. So create C# zip script, and we'll call that blaster shot. There we go. And this one here, what we'll basically do is a couple things. One is we'll make sure that direction's the right way. We'll also make sure, and for some reason my thing's not popping up here. Yeah, there we go. Make sure it's oriented the right way. We'll set a speed to it, and then we'll make sure that it destroys after a certain number of seconds. So sort of three things that we're going to do here. So first off, let's put that serialized field so that we can control the speed. And then we'll just make a variable which will be a float. We'll call it speed. And again, just setting it to a value to start with. I mean, you don't have to do that, right? You could go and change it, but if we kind of know what we want, we can put that in right away. The other thing, like I was mentioning, was we need to actually sort of destroy this. So what we can do is we can say destroy, right? Destroy this game object, and give it 5 seconds. That should be enough that it will sort of go out of the frame if it passes the frame, right? Our frame of our camera view, and then just disappear, right? So might have to change this time, but I think that's going to be okay. Now, a couple other things. We've got to, I don't think anything on the launch. We're going to get it to, if it hits something, we're going to get it to destroy. So let's just do an on collision enter here. And what did I do there? I put a space in on collision enter. And I should have, I guess because I changed it, it didn't help me out here. So anyways, collision. Right, so if it basically hits anything, it is going to destroy, or destroy itself. We won't worry about it, what it's doing with anything else at the moment, but it's going to destroy the game object. So destroy itself, basically, here. All right, and then the last thing, we haven't actually done the launching part that I talked about with the speed and so on. So we will create a launch, and we have to make sure this is public so that we can access it. Public void, we'll call it launch, and it will take a vector 3, which is the direction. And so don't worry. There we go. And so first of all, we'll take the direction and we'll normalize it. So that's getting rid of any positive, negative values, just sort of sets it up as a pure number. And then what we'll set here is the transform.up. We'll set that to whatever the direction that's being passed in. So its up is kind of the direction we want. So we're going to set whatever direction is passed in, and this will come from the player. It will set the transform up. So its up position, which is sort of its what we want it to be, its forward position, it will set it to that direction. And then basically we're going to grab the component, okay? And that component will be the rigid body. And we can set the velocity of that. And we're going to set that velocity to be the direction times whatever our speed is here. So that was speed. Okay. So that there should get us a pretty good script. Let's take it into Unity and get that over there. I'm going to, depending on what you want to do here, I'm going to go into my prefabs, and there's my blaster shot. I'm going to throw this script onto it here. Scripts, player, movement, blaster shot, there it is. And then that will be on all of them, right? Now my blaster shot should have it there. Good. I think, don't, okay, so it is launching. Now they are disappearing, that's good. Now I think we still have a problem with the direction there. So let me just check out what's going on here. So of course, the error was that I forgot to change our shot, basically, right? Like our when we were actually shooting here. So on our player weapon script, we got to go. There we go. Because we were just doing the same thing, shot dot velocity here. So what we want to do is, instead of doing this, which was setting the velocity, we want to run the shot's launch script. Okay, now this is going to give us a little error. We're going to fix this up in a second. And we have to pass in, remember we had to pass in that direction. So it's going to be transform.forward. So that's the forward direction. And so the launch gives us a problem because this blaster shot prefab, which was here, so we should actually probably call this blaster shot just to be Let me just think about this for a second. Yeah, definitely blaster shot. And I think then this one would have to be blaster shot too. The big thing is we want to grab the component there. So that's still giving me the problem here. I'm going to come up here instead of blaster shot prefab, call this blaster shot. That should be the script. I think we're okay here. So if we save this up, let's just see what happens here. I think we're okay. Okay, this thing's being weird, but anyways, okay. So the blaster shot, I think everything's okay. I think on the player, yeah, it doesn't know who the blaster shot prefab is again, because we sort of changed the name of it. So I'm going to go into my prefabs and drag that blaster shot in. And we hit play here. Let's just see if it's working. Okay, so it looks like it's firing. Now if I move back, get him in the line of fire. Okay, yeah, he's not getting hit yet, but let's just see. Those are disappearing at a certain part. That looks good. Yeah, and they're in the right direction. So I think we're pretty good here. Now, our player, our mummy didn't disappear, right? You might be a little bit worried about that, but that's only because the mummy doesn't have a collider on it. I don't think. It's got a mesh agent. Let's just close it up. And it's got a mummy script, but it doesn't have a collider. So let us, oh, and that's interesting too. Let us, because this one's got mummy LP and I've got mummy here. I'm just going to bring in mummy, bring in a second mummy here, and just make sure that that one's acting properly. And we'll just delete the other one. Okay, yeah, we're good. So let's just delete this mummy LP. Good. And then we've got this mummy, right? The problem with this mummy is that it does not have a collider on it. So if we click back on mummy, right, we saw all those things that it does have, but it doesn't have a collider. So physics, and we want probably a capsule collider is typical. And then we need to bring it up. So I think we can, well, that's going to bring the whole thing up, right? So it's center on the y-axis, drag it up, roughly centered there, extend the height, and maybe bring it down a little bit. Probably 2 is the right number, and then probably bringing this down to 1, because that sort of puts it halfway. And then if I view it from the top there, and maybe turn it to orthographic just to get a good view, a little big, right? Generally we want it to be a bit smaller, so I'll pop down that radius a bit, just to really focus in on the body and not so much, if it hits a hand or something, you're going to kill him. You gotta really get the body there. So let's just take a look here, and then we can sort of get a good view. So that's probably pretty good. I mean, again, you can modify it as you want. So let's just take a look now. We're going to move back, make sure it gets hit. So now you could see, I think we could see it. I'm going off the screen here. That it was being destroyed. So if I go back again, there, now it's being destroyed there. Now obviously we don't have the mummy dying, and that's kind of our next thing to do, but at least our shots are hitting him, and yeah, things are looking up, I think, here. So to get this mummy to die, we're going to do a little bit of the code here. So I'm going to go back into my code, and then hopefully we can get to our mummy code here. I apologize for this being silly. I think I have to restart my computer. So there we are, mummy. And where should we put this? Let's just put this under the awake here. We'll just come down, put a little bit of room. So the two things we're going to have to do, we do have to do the on collision enter. So I'm going to do an on collision enter, and just get rid of this private. I mean, you can keep that in there, it doesn't really matter. So what we're going to check is if it's from the blaster. And again, you know, we could do tags, but this, I'm trying to show you a different way. So if the blaster shot is equal to, so basically if the collision.collider has the component, so we're going to grab that component, if it has the blaster shot script on it, right? Then, right, we're going to do something. So so if blaster shot does not equal null, so I'm going to put that in here. So basically, if this is not not empty, okay, so does not equal null. So in other words, as long as it is, I'm going to put curly braces around here, we're going to run the die function. Okay, we haven't created that yet. But basically, right, and I think we're okay. Blaster shot. Oh, that should be a small b there. That's why. So we're going to, every time, right, it hits something, we create a variable called blaster shot. So it's a new variable, and it will check to see, you know, if it's got that component. If it doesn't, then it doesn't really create that blaster shot. So as long as blaster shot is not null, it will run the die function. And so that die function we'll create here, void die. We'll do a couple things. So first thing is we want to grab the component of that. So we got component and the collider, right? So whatever from of the object that's got the collider here, right? We're going to set that to, enable. We're going to set enabled. Enabled. Does that look right? That looks right, right? To false. So what we're doing here is it runs that die. So it grabs whatever the collider, whatever we ran into, okay, which is, let me just think. Sorry, this is on the mummy, so it's doing it itself. It's setting the collider to false. Okay, so it turns off the collider. That avoids it from getting hit by anything else and getting sort of moved. Okay, then what we have to do is prevent it from moving around. So we're going to take that nav mesh agent dot enabled and also turn that off. So now it's not going to walk around dead, although I guess it's already dead. Anyways, and then we're going to set another trigger, and we haven't done this yet in the animator. We're going to set the trigger so that we can go into the die animation. So set trigger, there we are. And we're going to set it to the died, I guess, right? We haven't created this yet. So the big idea, right? If it is, if it's hit by a blaster shot, basically, it will run the die function. Then it will turn its collider off, so it's no longer touching anything, especially if it's still standing up vertically, right? It's going to cause some problems. The nav mesh agent will be false so that it doesn't move around when it's dead. And then we have to make sure we play that animation there. So I'm going to save that up, and we'll need to go back into Unity and set that animation up as we did before. But I think looking at the time there, we're going to run out of time. So we'll finish that up in the next video.